The disappearance of the Chauhan family in February 2003, an ordinary family living in West London suddenly vanished without a trace. Anil Chauhan, a successful businessman, his devoted wife Nancy, their two young children, Devinder and Ravinder, and Nancy's elderly mother, Charanjit Kaur, all gone. One moment they were captured on home video, smiling and enjoying a normal family day, and just 2 days later, silence. No phone calls, no travel plans, no goodbyes. At first, neighbors and colleagues thought the family might have returned to India, something Nancy often longed for. But when days turned into weeks, and no one heard from them, questions began to grow louder. Why would a man like Anil, owner of a thriving fruit import company near Heathrow, suddenly abandon everything? And why would a mother leave behind her daily prayers, her children's toys still scattered across the floor, and uncooked food left in the fridge? This was no voluntary disappearance. This was the beginning of one of the most chilling murder cases in Britain, a case that shocked the nation and revealed the greed of a man willing to destroy an entire family for his own gain. Anil Chauhan, a man of second chances. Anil Chauhan was known as a warm-hearted, easygoing man. He had served time for tax evasion in the past, but instead of becoming bitter, that experience seemed to soften him. He believed in second chances, perhaps too strongly. At his freight company, CBA, he treated employees like family. He ordered pizzas during long shifts, shared laughs with his staff, and created an atmosphere where everyone felt valued. But that same generosity made him vulnerable. In January 2003, a new driver appeared at CBA. Kenneth Regan. Recently released from prison, Regan convinced Anil he was trying to turn his life around. Sympathetic, Anil welcomed him in. What Anil didn't realize was that Kenneth Regan was no ordinary ex-con. He was a career criminal, a man once known as Captain Cash, who had made millions smuggling drugs through front companies near Heathrow. When police caught him with 25 kilograms of heroin, Regan escaped a heavy prison sentence by turning informant, betraying his associates. By the time he walked free, he was broke, isolated, and desperate to rebuild his empire. And he saw Anil's company as the perfect vehicle for his comeback. Kenneth Regan's ruthless plan from the start. Regan's charm concealed ruthless ambition. He dangled before Anil an irresistible offer. Investors willing to pay $3 million for CB. For Anil, who knew his wife Nancy wanted to return to India, this seemed like the chance to secure his family's future. But Regan's intentions weren't about business. His plan was darker: to fully take over CIB and use it as a front for drug trafficking. He needed Anil out of the picture permanently. At the same time, Regan rekindled his obsession with socialite Belinda Bruin, a woman he had once pursued before prison, offering her a high-paying role as managing director of CBA. Despite her lack of experience, he gave himself an excuse to repeatedly visit her Devon farmhouse. Regan even began digging a so-called drainage ditch on her property, a bizarre construction that would later become a critical piece of evidence. The disappearance on a Thursday morning before Valentine's Day in 2003, Anil left his office, telling staff he had a meeting near Stonehenge with the supposed investors. He never returned. By Monday, employees were stunned when Regan introduced Belinda as the new company director. He produced a forged letter, claiming Anil had sold the business and moved abroad due to ill health. But Anil's brother-in-law, Onkar Verma, living in New Zealand, knew something was wrong. Daily calls with his sister Nancy and mother had suddenly stopped. When he flew to London and entered the family home, the truth hit hard. Baby bottles still on the counter, toys scattered, clothes hanging in wardrobes, and his mother's cherished prayer book abandoned. No family planning to emigrate would leave behind their very identity. Onkar pushed the Metropolitan Police to investigate seriously, and slowly, suspicion circled back to Kenneth Regan. Tracking the Truth phone records became a turning point. On the day Anil vanished, his mobile was traced from Hounslow to Stonehenge, where it converged with Regan's phone, before both signals traveled toward Devon, close to Belinda Bruin's home. Detectives were now convinced Regan had lured Anil into a trap. But what about Nancy, the children, and Charanjit Kaur? Back in Devon, Belinda grew uneasy. Regan had instructed her to lie to police if they asked about his activities on her land. She mentioned to detectives the so-called drainage ditch he insisted on digging. When investigators examined the site, they discovered burnt clothing, jewelry, and baby poppers, the fasteners from infant clothing. It was clear the Chohan family had been buried there before being moved. Then, in April 2003, the sea revealed its first secret. Canoeists discovered a body floating near Bournemouth. It was Anil. He had suffered a head injury and suffocation, his mouth bound with tape. Forensic evidence later confirmed his remains had once been buried, then exhumed and dumped at sea. Soon after, Nancy's decomposed body surfaced in the Solent. Later still, Charanjit's remains were found near the Isle of Wight, but the children, Devinder, just 18 months, and Ravinder, only 8 weeks old, were never recovered. Betrayal and confession. As the investigation widened, Regan and his accomplices, William Hornsey and Peter Rees, went on the run. But paranoia grew. Peter Rees, unable to carry the weight of his conscience, confessed to a stranger in a boarding house. He admitted he was present when the family was killed, though he blamed Regan for pulling the trigger. His slip led to his arrest, and soon after, police tracked Regan in Belgium. Hornsey later surrendered. Detectives faced one final hurdle, proving beyond doubt that Anil had been held captive and forced to sign forged documents before being killed. The breakthrough came from an overlooked piece of evidence: Anil's own sock. Hidden inside was a folded, damaged letter addressed to Kenneth Regan, linking him directly to the crime scene. It was Anil's silent message from beyond the grave, proof he had been imprisoned at Regan's home before his murder. Justice at the Old Bailey in 2005. The case went to trial at the Old Bailey, lasting 9 months, the longest in its history. The evidence was overwhelming: forged signatures, forensic traces from the Devon grave, phone records, and Anil's hidden letter. Peter Rees received 23 years for his role. Regan and Hornsey were sentenced to 5 life terms each, ensuring they would never walk free again. The shockwave across Britain. The murders of the Chohan family sent shockwaves across the country. Rarely had Britain seen such cold-blooded brutality aimed at wiping out 3 generations at once. Newspapers carried headlines that left readers horrified. Commentators described it as a crime beyond belief. The public struggled to comprehend how 2 infants could be killed simply because they were witnesses to their parents' existence. Detectives themselves admitted that this case stood apart from anything they had ever handled. It wasn't just about profit. It was about greed so powerful that it erased an entire bloodline. The case also raised new concerns about organized crime operating under the cover of legitimate businesses. Freight companies like CBA, with access to airports and bonded warehouses, were vulnerable fronts for smuggling. Regan's plan showed just how far a determined criminal could go to exploit those opportunities. A legacy of loss and memory. Even after justice was delivered, the pain never left. Onkar, returning to New Zealand, carried with him memories he could never set down. He often spoke about how he replayed scenarios in his head, wondering if Nancy was killed first, or if she witnessed her children's final moments. These haunting questions remained unanswered, but alongside the grief was also a legacy of strength. The case became a symbol of perseverance, how one man, Onkar, refused to let the disappearance of his family fade into silence. His determination forced authorities to look deeper, to keep digging, and to uncover the truth. The Chohan murders remind us that justice, though slow, can prevail. Yet they also remain a painful reminder that behind every headline lies a family torn apart, dreams cut short, and children whose laughter will never be heard again. Lessons from a tragedy. The Chohan case stands as a chilling warning about misplaced trust. Anil Chohan's kindness, his belief in giving people second chances, was the very quality that Kenneth Regan exploited. It showed how criminals often wear masks of charm, hiding ruthless intentions behind polite smiles. For law enforcement, the case reinforced the importance of persistence, technology, and intuition. Small details, nearly overlooked, exposed the lies of dangerous men. And for society, it remains a heartbreaking reminder that greed, when unchecked, can destroy not just individuals but entire families. Today, when people recall the Chohans, it isn't only the horror of their deaths that endures, but also the memory of their lives, ordinary, happy moments captured in a family video, forever frozen just 2 days before everything was stolen from them. A family lost forever for Onkar Verma, who fought tirelessly for justice. The verdict was small comfort. His sister, his nephews, his mother, all gone. The last images he had of them were from a simple home video shot 2 days before their deaths. In it, the children played, Nancy laughed, and Charanjit smiled with quiet pride. Those fleeting, happy moments are all that remain of the Chauhan family, a reminder of lives stolen by greed and of how fragile happiness can be when touched by evil.